Do I need new brushes?
No!
Do I need to make another video about brushes?
No!
But I made one. I made a new video about brushes. I hope you'll watch it. Please. You're gonna watch it. Well, hello minders. Welcome back to the Mind of Watercolor. Great to see you. No, I can't actually see you, but I'm glad you're watching. More brushes. It seems like I've done a ton of brush videos in the last few months. I have one particular brush video that you should watch. It wasn't very long ago. It's called, Is There a Best Brush for Watercolor? I hope you'll go watch that. But just to recap, brushes are a difficult category to make a mistake in. And I constantly have people want me to make a recommendation, and I just usually don't, because there are so many brushes that would fill the bill. The best brush is the brush that's in your hand that's doing what you want it to do. That's the best brush. So with that in mind, we're going to look at a brand new brush today. This is the Dynasty Water Lily. And yes, this is brand new from Dynasty. Now, Dynasty is a fantastic company, and I just want to say I don't use a lot of Dynasty brushes, not because I don't think they're great, but just because there are so many brushes out there, and I'm in habits. You know, I love Trekell brushes, I love Princeton brushes, I love silver brush brushes, and I can't use them all the time. So I ended up having a set that sits here and becomes my go-to, and I don't think much about changing them out. But my commitment to this channel has been, I don't do a lot of reviews, but when I do reviews, I love to do things that are new to the industry, new to watercolorists, things that you're going to love to see and maybe try. I'll just start off by saying this: regardless of how well you think this brush, or I think this brush performs, it is a beautiful brush. So if you just want to buy a brush based on how pretty it is, you might want this brush. It is a beautiful peachy pearlescent color with these gorgeous black ferrules. Dynasty is not sponsoring this video, but they have graciously sent me these brushes to try. And Dynasty has been a great company to communicate with and work with, because every time they send me something, it is, hey, try these. No strings attached. Just try them. And they're very generous with what they send. So I am under no obligation to make a positive review. But if you're judging by that, that's confidence in your product. So what about the Water Lily? Well, the Water Lily brush is, as we've already said, their newest brush. It is, far as I can tell, one of the only brushes they have rated for watercolor, primarily. They have a lot of brushes that are great for watercolor. I could be wrong about that. I have to go back and look. But this one is rated for watercolor and ink. What are the distinctives? Well, it looks like Kowalski sable. They're trying to imitate that natural hair with a synthetic fiber. This is what they call their new techno synthetic, and it is designed to hold a lot of water. Just a wonderful water holder and a wonderful water dispenser, because what you want with watercolor brushes is a nice even dispersion of water without it dumping all of its water at once. And a lot of synthetics will do that. It'll just plop all the water out when you start to paint. These are the samples they sent me, so let's go through them real quick. I got a 3/4 inch oval wash, a 3/4 inch flat, a 1/2 inch flat, a 1/2 inch angled shader, I guess it might be called, 3 quills, a number 4 quill or mop, number 2 quill, and a 3/0 quill. And then they sent me 3 rounds, a number 4 round, a number 6 round, and a number 8 round. Now, these are not all the brushes in this line. They have other types. They have daggers, liners, and what I'm going to do is just paint. I'm just going to paint something, and we'll see how they do. One of the favorites, one of the brushes that I really love is this, the Caviar line. And to date, this has been my favorite Dynasty brush, because it reminds me a lot of the Silver Brush Black Velvet. Again, these are extremely attractive brushes, you know, with the coatings and the ferrules and stuff. They make their brushes look great. These have just incredible points on the smaller diameters, and it's soft, very similar to the Silver Brush Black Velvet. One of the ways that I like to test snap, I like to use the tip of my finger when the brush is dry, and I can feel how soft or resistant it is. If the softer and more resistant or less resistant it is, the limper I know it's going to be. This quill is about the same size. And right off the bat, I can tell this is a snappier brush. Very similar, but the caviar is slightly softer. And when I compare that to a real Kowalski sable, this is a Rosemary and Company Kowalski sable, it's similar to this. You might be asking, what makes these brushes new? They're constantly making changes to the fibers so that they are more like natural hair. And it's a little difficult to kind of get a handle on what it is they're doing. Because in most cases, they're closely guarded secrets. Best I can figure doing research, natural hairs are tapered. So in the brush industry, one of the things they've done over the years is learn how to make synthetic fiber brushes that taper. The other thing is they will bundle different diameters of fiber. I don't know what that does, but another one is that natural Kowalski hair has a fine scale on the hair if you looked at it under a microscope. And that's where the magic is, apparently. Those scales just hold and release water at just the perfect rate. And Kowalski is still one of the fibers that wears like iron. It is very difficult to wear out a Kowalski sable brush. That's sort of a final claim to fame. So what they've done in the synthetic fiber industry is they've tried things like put waves in there. I don't know whether they can sort of texture the surface or not. Again, some of these are closely guarded secrets. But apparently when you see something like this, like these new lines come out, you're usually seeing some new innovation that they're trying with the fiber. Maybe a lot more technical info than you wanted, but let's just go ahead and use them. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a painting with this one. I might get a quill involved, and then one of these rounds for details. Let's go paint. All right, let's get started here. This is my Arches 140 cold press journal, 140 pound cold press journal. I'm gonna do a limited color scheme. I think we're gonna get some golds in here. Do some golds and purples because those will kind of help offset each other when needed. This is nickel quinacridone gold. Or maybe a green gold like Azo Green and nickel Azo Yellow. Probably some ultramarine. I don't know. We'll have to see about that. Possibly some red iron oxide. I want to stay away from sort of the summer greens now since we don't have fall colors where we are yet, but they're moving that way. All right, well, I am going to paint on dry paper. I'm not going to pre-wet, but I'm going to spatter it very shortly after. And this is the oval wash. Oval washes just kind of have become my default first wash brush. I like it because I can get some big bold washes and then just, you know, come in there with points. Drips are going to be fine. This is fairly spontaneous. I want to be able to paint into that spatter to get those spidery effects. Come in compositionally at a diagonal, I think. And when these rivulets get created is what I really love to see. This brush is doing fine. You know, the thing about brushes, as I've already said, is there's so many great ones out there. And usually, if I don't have anything to say about them, if they're doing what I need them to do, that's a good thing. That's usually positive. You know, when I do spontaneous paintings, and I get a lot of people comment that they just have trouble, everything turns to mush. And usually the biggest reason for that is you're using too much water. You're getting so much water on the paper that everything is just melding together. You've got to manage your water, and that means if you need to, you can pick it up in places. I'm spraying a lot. You're seeing me spray a lot, but I'm actually not adding a lot of water. I'm mostly adding these droplets. All right, I am very happy with that as a base wash. Let's let this dry. Excellent performance by this oval wash. And when it comes to a brush, usually no news is good news. Doing everything I want it to do. And I like the snap. When you do this sort of thing, you've got to get these colors to make shapes and contrast. You can't just make a big... And that's probably one of the biggest mistaken ideas about spontaneity. You're always looking to see that you're creating something that looks natural. I am, even though a lot of it is created automatically in the painting process. All right, so this is completely dry now. Finish it up. I didn't get a chance really to use the flat or the quill, so we'll save that for another time, because I'm down to the detail. But what I do want to do is compare this number 6 water lily with this number 6 caviar. So I'll base switch back and forth. Alright, so I've decided to try a little gouache with these brushes too. I actually stopped using these because while they have great points, I was getting a better flow of the color off of the water lily than I was these. For some reason, almost felt like the color was stuck in the brush. I don't ever recall that from using the caviar before, but I quickly switched back to these even though they didn't have the same point. It's a pretty good point, but let's try some gouache and see what happens. Well, I think I'm pretty much finished with it. I am going to get a chance to use this quill. This is the number 2. I'm just going to pop in a little few streaks up here of clouds just because that corner looks empty. Let them bleed into this tree here. And I'm just pre-wetting that area. I mean, we're talking just a very slight wisp. Just a hint of the sky. And it's just some ultramarine blue mixed with that yellow purple mixture, which grayed it a bit. Usually not a good idea to paint over details like that with a wash, but they're staying put. So problem is putting a sky in like this first in spontaneous painting is really hard because you don't necessarily know where it's going to work best. All right, lest I overdo it, I'm gonna stop. Well, I'm very happy with this painting. It, I think, turned out actually a little better than I expected. I like the color scheme. And the brushes did great. Time will tell as I'm able to compare these brushes with others. But there were no red flags. They did what I wanted them to do. And they have a stiffness, a snap, very close to real Kowalski sable. So a little on the stiffer side, I would say, as compared to something like a silver brush black velvet, which has squirrel in it. Here is that other video I was talking about. Thanks everyone. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.